Good day everyone, I am Hanabi Minket and our group was assigned to focus on the economic development. 19th century Europe. The Industrial Revolution advanced during the 19th century. This resulted in a number of changes in industry, the most notable of which was the shift from handwork to machine work. The Industrial Revolution promoted migration, increased population, fueled nationalism, fostered liberalism, advanced industrial capitalism, and resulted in the victory of the middle class. However, the new economic situation has resulted in labor problems. During the 19th century, science became the primary concern of the majority of people. Science captivated people's interest. Medicine was the most exciting work of the century. The 19th century also saw the rise of modern imperialism, primarily economic imperialism. It emerged from just a desire to look for new markets where raw materials could be purchased, finished products could be sold at home, and surplus capital could be invested. Developments in the last few decades of the 18th century had such a serious influence in the 19th century. 19th century Spain. For Spain, the 18th and 19th centuries were a golden age of colonialism. It was characterized by capital growth, large-scale raw material imports, and rising population. Statesmen and administrators favored legislation that would increase output by removing internal custom barriers, production levies, and restrictions on the import of machinery. They promoted agricultural enclosure and the disentitlement of church property. The land issue, however, remained with the aristocracy divided from the peasants. 19th century Philippines. The late 19th century flowering of the nationalist movement would have been impossible without the economic growth that occurred in the Philippines during the 19th century, particularly after 1830. The growth of an export economy in those years brought increasing prosperity to the Filipino middle and upper classes who were in a position to profit from it, such as those who controlled most of the large plantations of rice, sugar, abaca, and other crops, Filipino hacienderos and friar inquilinos. As the profits of the inquilinos increased, the hacienda owners increased the canon on the grounds that the land value had increased. The inquilinos argued that the increased value was due to their own initiative and hard work. On the friar haciendas, however, rising prosperity had caused friction between inquilinos, Chinese mestizos or natives to the area where lands were leased, and hacienda owners as lands grew in value and rents were raised. Because religious corporations owned the majority of the haciendas, animosity grew into outright anti-clericalism. This would eventually call into question to the friar ownership of the haciendas, and their motivation would be political as well as economic, weakening the friars' influence in Philippine politics. A relatively small class of Spaniards, mestizos, and some of the old native aristocracy appear to have helped themselves to the economic feast, leaving only crumbs for the common people. Trade opportunities in the Philippines increased contacts with foreigners and peninsular Spaniards. The relatively small but significant number of prosperous families were able to send their sons to Europe for an education, further rupturing the isolation that had cut the Philippines off from the rest of the world.